Joining me is Caroline Di Russo, lawyer, business owner and Sky News commentator, who's written brilliantly today in the Daily Telegraph about the hate. Caroline Di Russo, thank you so much for your time. The decision of the AFL Women's League, which you've written about, to refuse a minute's silence for the passing of the Queen last weekend. Now, let's try to justify this on the basis that it was the Indigenous round and the monarchy represents colonisation. Aborigines would be traumatised. Do you buy this?
Well, Andrew, I buy it in the sense that it's the very kind of superficial, vacuous narrative that seems to be getting trotted out a lot in recent years. So I do buy it from that point of view. I don't buy it from the point of view that it's an adequate reason for not having a minute's silence. I think there's no excuse. There have been all sorts of bodies, all sorts of sporting groups, some political, apolitical, charity groups. Everyone has just kind of left the politics out of this to honour the life of the Queen, to thank her for her service. We have seen impeccable behaviour, frankly, out of the Prime Minister, people like Daniel Andrews, Paul Keating, former Prime Minister, ardent Republican, but wrote the most beautiful acknowledgement of the Queen. How is it that these people can leave their politics to one side just for a moment in order to tribute appropriately, and for some reason the AFLW can't?
Yeah, that's extraordinary. I'd even add Malcolm Turnbull. I don't have much good to say about him or him about anyone else really, but he also in tears at the memory of the Queen. And I have to say, those Republicans have, as you say, behaved impeccably. Now, you ask in your piece, if the AFL is so judgmental of the past, should it accept the money of some of its sponsors? Elaborate on that.
Well, look, the position that they've come out with has essentially held the Queen to an impossible standard of a human being. An impossible standard of a human being. But yet, you know, if you go through their list of sponsors, you know, it does raise your eyebrows. And the point that I made in the article was, well, the NAB is one of their sponsors, and the NAB was recently found at the Banking Royal Commission. They admitted to charging dead people for financial advice they did not receive. One of the other AFLW clubs has Qatar as their sponsor. And you'll remember the revolting scandal in recent years with regards to, you'll remember at Doha Airport, a lady had a miscarriage in a bathroom, and then they carried out these essentially physical vaginal exams on all these women before they could get on an aeroplane. Well, if it's acceptable to take money from the NAB and from Qatar Airlines and from no doubt a whole bunch of others who, you know, I haven't been through all of them, then how is it that you can hold the Queen to a standard of behaviour in relation to things which happened before her time that she didn't personally do, she's not personally responsible for, and in fact spent much of her 70 years of service decolonising the empire and really encouraging those former British subjects to self-determination and to free will and to all of those things. I think that is just incredibly cruel and, well, frankly, it's crude.
Well, I think you're exactly correct, and that's leaving aside even the fact that the Queen at least presided over great democracies, and Qatar is not that. Not really. No. Now, you made an excellent point that had not occurred to me. You've pointed out that here is a women's sport, the AFL Women's League, dismissing all the personal achievements of perhaps the greatest female trailblazer of our time. Go into that.
Well, look, she is Andrew. She ascended to the throne at the age of 25. She was very young. She has given her entire life to service, and at a time, Andrew, you know, it's a bit different now, but at that time, 1952, when she ascended to the throne, you know, those circles of influence, they were dominated by men. But she always held her own and she served and she was respected across the globe. You know, people talk about the Queen. They don't talk about the Queen of England. She's like the Madonna of the monarchy, right? She only needs a first name, Elizabeth, and everyone knows who we're talking about. You know, so I think to just dismiss out of hand because of some tenuous link to some past colonialism from a bygone era, which she was not personally responsible for, to then denigrate her personal achievements because of that, I think it reflects very poorly on the AFLW, and you would think in such a nascent league, in something that is growing and trying to encourage women, that the management would be really careful to not make decisions which actually dismiss the accomplishments of a woman.
That's absolutely correct, because if you look behind, beyond the symbolism and all that, you're looking at someone who acted with enormous dignity, enormous grace, correct, enormous tact and sympathy, and always with such devotion to duty. I mean, she was working until 2 days before her death at the age of 96. Yep. I mean, really, if some of her critics could show that much personal integrity and duty, I don't think they'd be acting like they're doing today. Now, talking about people acting really badly, the Greens, I think, we've credited Labor politicians acting impeccably. I've only got one problem about their quibbling about whether the King's head should go on the $5 note. That aside, impeccably. The Greens, on the other hand, have behaved almost universally disgustingly. Adam Bandt, the Greens leader federally. Deputy Mehreen Faruqi abusing the Queen. Lydia Thorpe abusing the Queen. Now a Greens MP in Queensland. Here he is.
Right now, for some people, the death of the Queen is a cause of significant grief, and for some people, the death of the Queen is a cause of relief. And we as elected representatives have to acknowledge that and be mindful of that.
Yeah. Got to acknowledge that it's a relief because now she's out of the way, they can get their dream of a republic. I mean, disgusting, Caroline.
Well, it's ignorant. It's totally ignorant. And but again, it's kind of what we've come to expect from the Greens. But I actually thought that Daniel Andrews, oh my God, I can't believe I'm giving Daniel Andrews 2 compliments in one sitting.
I know exactly how you feel.
But Daniel Andrews handled it perfectly yesterday when Ms Ratnam, who's the leader of the Greens in Victoria, was having a whinge about having to swear allegiance to the Queen. And Daniel Andrews said, well, they're the rules. Don't swear allegiance, don't be an MP, and off you trot. And so basically I think that's how you have to deal with these people. And the reason that they are so dismissive of public service is because they've never served anyone except themselves. They've never done the sacrifice themselves. It's always, do you notice the Greens are always very compassionate with government money, but never compassionate off their own backs or off their own, for them it's something that they take credit for. It's very gauche, but they take credit for it without ever having to do the hard work themselves. Easy come, easy go, Andrew.
How many surveys do I have to point to saying that Conservatives, people who vote Conservatives, they tend to actually donate more of their own money? The Greens are very generous with other people's money. That's how it works. Caroline Di Russo, great piece today. Thank you so much for your time.